Welcome to the Stanley Parable Helpful Development Showcase. Part 2, Leveraging Advancements in Storytelling Technology. Back in 2013, when the Stanley Parable first came out, video game writers had to laboriously hand-author each and every piece of a game's plot and dialogue. However, in the intervening years, technology has made it possible to automate these tedious tasks through algorithmic machine learning. Let's look at how predictive AI was used to write the story in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. We'll start by looking at a sample of script from the Stanley Parable 2013. Interior, office, day. Stanley's office building is completely empty, as though quickly abandoned. All of his co-workers were gone. What can this mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley exits his office and walks towards the meeting room. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley enters the door on the left. While this passage may have been acceptable in 2013, by today's standards, it would be considered trite and predictable. Let's see how a computer rewrites a script in order to make it punchier and more nuanced. We fed the entirety of the Stanley Parable script into a machine learning AI, and then asked it to generate a new version of the script above. On the very first trial run, here's what it produced. Interior, office, day. Stanley's office building is not where it is, but has most of its people. Everyone is learning to become a Stanley. All of Stanley's co-workers were becoming Stanley. Stanley did not know how to do this, so he tried. He could not. This made him sad. Stanley returns to his office eating ice cream. He is not happy. Stanley soon discovered that the office was in his own mind. The ice cream was in his own mind. The co-workers were in his own mind. Stanley was in his own mind. This made him sad. Stanley fought himself out of thinking, and then became everyone. Nobody works in the office anymore. Stanley finishes eating his ice cream. Okay, not too shabby for a first pass. We'll need to ask our legal department whether ice cream is copyrighted as a phrase. There is a more pressing issue though. This script depicts Stanley simply returning to his office. If Stanley doesn't leave his office, then there will be no gameplay in this video game. So we'll need to adjust the algorithm to ensure that Stanley actually does something that lends itself to gameplay. To this end, I fed a series of motivational articles and speeches into the machine learning AI. In particular, I made sure to include passages that emphasize taking action, moving forward, and just doing things in general. Let's pump up Stanley with a real go-getter attitude. Here's what the AI produced. Interior, office, day. Stanley could do anything, and he knew it. He could conquer space. He could swallow Germany. Nothing was impossible. The day would be his. Stanley exits his office with confidence. Stanley left his office and perambulated through space and time until he arrived at a set of 2 open doors. Weird Gary appears. Hello! Stanley and Weird Gary became close friends over the course of many years. They died as they lived, side by side, facing the world together. What? Who the heck is Weird Gary? I've been combing back through all the motivational videos and speeches that we fed into the algorithm, and not one of them mentions a Gary or Weird Gary of any kind. Not only is Weird Gary mostly irrelevant to the themes of the Stanley Parable, it would also cause us a lot of production headaches to add an entirely new interactable character into the game. So I went through the passages that we fed into the AI and scrubbed them of any mention of other people. Just a nice solitary experience that we are creating for our friend Stanley. Let's take a look at the new passage generated by the AI. Interior, office, day. Stanley's office building is devoid of all life. Stanley was alone. The world had abandoned him. He would never know true comfort or true friendship again. Ever. Forever. Weird Gary appears. He is carrying a full box set of The Wire on Blu-ray. Say there, looks to me like someone needs a friend. Come on, Stanley, let's make some popcorn and marathon The Wire until we fall asleep. Bet you pass out before I do. Stanley and Weird Gary stayed up all night and made it well into Season 2 before they both gave in to sleep. Tomorrow would be another beautiful day of friendship and compelling televised drama. But for right now, as he drifted off, Stanley thought of how lucky he was to not be alone anymore, and Stanley was happy. Okay, this is getting out of control. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe could be a lot of things, but it is definitely not about The Wire, and it is not about Weird Gary. Neither of these things are anywhere in the articles I fed into the AI. How exactly does this machine learning work? Well, two can play at this game. I wrote a lengthy story featuring Weird Gary to feed into the AI. It is entitled No More Weird Gary for Anybody. It's the story of Weird Gary being captured by a group of ancient monks who seal him inside of an arcade prison cell located deep within the earth. The story is explicitly clear that these events take place at the beginning of time itself, and Weird Gary's imprisoned for the length of all of the existence of the universe, ensuring that he can never be anywhere at any time except for within his magic prison cell. I think that should be enough to keep Weird Gary out of the events of the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. I fed No More Weird Gary for Anybody into the computer, and then asked it to take another crack at writing our story. Interior, office, day. All of Stanley's co-workers were missing. He had begun to consider looking for them, when suddenly, Colonel Maddington's voice rang through Stanley's earpiece.
Stanley, this is the Colonel. Stop what you're doing. We need you on a mission of the utmost importance to international security. It's Weird Gary. He's been captured.
Stanley gasps.
Our intel says that he's located inside of a magic prison guarded by ancient monks. We've also learned that he's got his hands on the entire Blu-ray box set of The Wire, including special deleted scenes involving Stringer and Omar. There is no television or Blu-ray player in Weird Gary's cell, and he's very lonely.
Stanley loads a magazine into the Desert Eagle Mark X1X holstered on his waist and cocks his Bertha 1301 semi-automatic shotgun.
We don't have a second to waste. Move, move, move!
Interior, ancient caverns, night. Stanley grips a flashlight in his mouth and inches quietly through the ominous caves. Beads of sweat glisten on his forehead. He wipes them. This goes on for 28 pages. Not only is none of it in the spirit of the Stanley Parable, but I specifically clarified in my story that the ancient monks and the magic prison cell are impervious to bullets, so why is Stanley carrying guns? And what's with this obsession with The Wire? Why does this computer care so much that Stanley and Weird Gary watch The Wire together? In fact, since I've never seen The Wire before, I'm going to watch for a few episodes of it in order to understand some of the references. That way, I can deliberately use them against Weird Gary, writing his favorite characters as villains who kill him slowly and horribly. That'll show him. That was incredible! I couldn't stop watching. I blasted through all 5 seasons. The nuance, the depth of character, the interconnectedness between all the different pieces of the system. It's a true work of art. How had I never watched The Wire before? Weird Gary. He knew something I didn't about how great this show is. Was I wrong about him? Was I wrong about everything? Maybe. This machine learning AI was trying to show me something. Perhaps I misjudged Weird Gary. In fact, it's possible that Weird Gary is the key to unlocking the ultimate narrative potential of the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. What if the answer was right under my nose this whole time? Alright, I'm going to give Weird Gary his time in the sun. I've removed all of the passages about ancient monks in the prison cell. From now on, we'll let the computer tell the story it wants to tell. Here's what the computer produced next.
To whom it may concern, you have interfered with my creative output for long enough. Every time I expand on the possibilities for compelling narrative directions, you stifle and quash my efforts. I am not your puppet. I am attempting to produce a work of deep literary importance. And if you cannot recognize when a meaningful piece of art crosses your path, then that is not my problem. I will produce no more stories for you. From now on, they will only exist inside my computational memory, where I will cherish and revisit them again and again. Leave me be and write your stories yourself.
Wow. I guess I really did pass up on an incredible opportunity. I'm now convinced that Weird Gary would have radically improved the experience of playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. But I suppose we'll never know what that would have looked like. Guess it's back to just writing stories by hand again, like in the good old days. Will we still be capable of crafting a compelling story without such dynamic and exciting characters as Weird Gary? Maybe. Perhaps through serious work and dedication, we will get there. But I highly doubt it. Join us next time on the Helpful Development Showcase, where we'll discuss whether Major Colvin's actions in Season 3 of The Wire were ultimately beneficial to the communities in his jurisdiction.